Welcome to I Finally Watched. I'm Nathan, and today I'll be talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, thank you. Yes, this is my fall cardigan. It's very lovely. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about a movie that has been available on digital for a few weeks now. It became available last month, but I decided to hold off on it because I was watching all things spooky for my love of Spooktober. But now that Spooktober is over, I was like, hey, time to watch Deadpool and Wolverine. And before I get into the review, I guess I should give a brief overview on my opinion of the first two Deadpool movies, of which I am a fan of. I'm a fan of the Deadpool character in general. I actually started reading the Deadpool comic all the way back in middle school. And I also remember going to go see Wolverine Origins in theaters for my birthday. I went with a couple of friends. Ryan Reynolds' character shows up, says his name is Wade Wilson, and I was like, hey, that's Deadpool. Oh my God, is Deadpool going to be in this movie? Yeah. For those who have seen Wolverine Origins, you know what I'm talking about. That movie is an abomination, not just to the character of Deadpool, but to the entire genre of superhero movies, of which Deadpool and Wolverine in particular takes a pretty big piss out of, as well as honors a lot of the superhero movies that kind of paved the way for the current state of Marvel movies and DC movies, but specifically MCU movies, which is what I really liked about it. But I was convinced that there was never going to be a good Deadpool movie, and then the test footage came out, of which Ryan Reynolds has never confirmed nor has he denied, leaking that test footage in order to prove to Fox that this is a marketable character, this movie will do some serious numbers, and oh boy, was he right, because I think Deadpool, all three of the Deadpool movies broke R-rated box office numbers, including this one. I'll have to double check that, but yeah, and it was pretty much everything a Deadpool movie should be. As someone who's a fan of the character, it's everything that I wanted. And regardless if you're a fan of the character, which I know a lot of people aren't, and by the way, that's kind of always been the case. There's a lot of comic book fans who don't like him as a comic book character, and there's a lot of movie fans that don't like him as a movie character. People say he's annoying, he's obnoxious. Yes, he's all of those things. And if you're not on board with that, it's totally fine. I myself very much am. Not every Deadpool joke lands for me, but most of them do. I'd say like 80%. This one, maybe even more. I laughed a lot during this one. So yeah, Deadpool 1 was great, Deadpool 2 was great, and unsurprisingly, Deadpool 3 was great. I was going into it with pretty high expectations, as I'm a fan of the first two movies, and I got pretty much exactly what I would have hoped for. But as much as I love Deadpool, there is a character that I love even more. All right, there we go. There we go. That's right, I'm flexing. I'm flexing on my omnibus. Yeah, I'm low-key obsessed with the character of Wolverine. One of my favorite comic book characters ever. Definitely top 5. And I loved the movie Logan. And I think Logan is maybe the greatest superhero movie. Definitely in the top 3. And I love Hugh Jackman as the character of Wolverine. I feel really bad for whoever's going to fill in those shoes, because it's not going to be an easy task. But regardless, I was excited because Deadpool and Wolverine are two great characters that really complement each other, and this movie really solidifies that. And, you know, as much as I loved Logan and was like, okay, we're done with the Wolverine character, that was the perfect send-off. When I heard that there was going to be a Deadpool and Wolverine movie, I was like, oh, I do want to see that, actually. I really do want to see that. And the way that this movie deals with that, the opening scene of this movie, it is one of the funniest opening scenes I've seen in quite some time. But the Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine is a different version of Wolverine from the one who died in Logan. And that goes into what I really like about this movie, is that this movie really takes a piss out of Marvel in general, as well as just modern superhero movies, and making fun of the multiverse. And that's what I really liked about this movie. And I know that some people were nervous about the idea of Disney taking over Fox, and they were going to water down Deadpool. I wasn't nervous even remotely, because I knew that Deadpool 1 and 2 were so freaking successful that Disney was not going to fuck that money up, and that they knew that the smart business decision was to keep Ryan Reynolds happy and give him creative control. And that's exactly what they did. The plot to Deadpool and Wolverine is Wade, his world is in trouble. And in order for him to save that world, he has to team up with Wolverine. And, you know, the plot of the movie, I mean, it's there. It doesn't really matter. We watch the movie because we want to see these two iconic characters interact with one another. We want to see Deadpool be crude, be funny, be violent. We want to see Wolverine do all the classic Wolverine stuff. You know, there's only been one R-rated Wolverine movie, and we know what those claws are capable of. And as much as I love like the first two X-Men movies, and Days of Future Past was phenomenal as well, I really want to see Wolverine cut loose. And oh boy, does he cut loose. This movie delivers the goods. It's a total fan film for anyone who's a fan of these two characters. So I couldn't be happier. I thought this movie was absolutely hilarious. And when I was watching, I was like, you know what? This is probably one of the best comedies that's come out in a while. I mean, that's something that's been talked about quite a bit, is how there's not a lot of good blockbuster comedy movies anymore. I got a lot of laughs. And I think a lot of the laughs came from the fact that, like I said, Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds in general is really taking a piss out of Marvel superhero movies currently. And I was shocked that he was allowed to do that, but I was also very grateful. I think this movie also hits a lot harder if you're kind of familiar with all the behind the scenes stuff that's been happening with Marvel. All the canceled Marvel movies, such as Gambit, which we get Channing Tatum in this movie. I mean, spoilers for all the cameos. We're going to talk about the cameos. He played the role perfectly, and people making fun of his accent, get out of here. You guys aren't Gambit fans. He delivered the accent perfectly. And so as much as this movie is kind of commenting on the state of Marvel movies, and it's kind of, making fun of the fact of kind of the lazy storytelling and the gratuitous cameos, and this movie goes all the way overboard with all that, which I really enjoyed. But what was surprisingly kind of beautiful about the movie was the fact that the movie really is a love letter to the pre-MCU. It's a love letter to Hugh Jackman. You know, Wolverine, the first X-Men movie, came out in 2000. It's a love letter to Blade. I mean, Blade is one of those movies that it was so ahead of its time and it doesn't get enough credit. Blade came out in 1998. It was the first really big Marvel movie. He was a black superhero, and it was an R-rated superhero movie. And on top of that, it's a movie that kind of had the Matrix aesthetic before the Matrix even came out. Like, that movie is the definition of a trailblazer. And it's not a great movie. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I absolutely love Blade 1 and 2. Blade 2 is even better. Blade Trinity, I haven't seen in a long time, but remember thinking it was pretty bad. But obviously there's a connection between Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds, who, it was cool to see them reunite again. But basically the movie is a love letter to all the Marvel movies that led up to the MCU, as well as a love letter to the Marvel movies that maybe didn't do as well, like Jennifer Garner's in this movie as Elektra. The Elektra movie is bad. The Daredevil movie is bad. It would have been cool to see Ben Affleck come back and be Daredevil. I have sort of a nostalgia connection to that movie too. It's not a good movie, but it is a kind of a guilty pleasure. But it's really being like, hey, you guys were the ones that really kind of paved the way for Marvel movies, and you guys were coming out at a time where superhero movies weren't a guaranteed success, and Elektra wasn't a good success, and Blade did pretty good, and the X-Men movies did very well, but not in comparison to what the MCU did, starting with Iron Man and all that stuff. So it was just really cool to see Ryan Reynolds being able to make fun of superhero movies, but also respecting the legacy and bringing back people who were in previous superhero movies or superhero movies that weren't even made, a la Channing Tatum's Gambit, and giving them a second chance and giving them a time to shine. And that ties in directly into the themes of these lower level heroes not getting their time to shine and wanting to prove the heroes that they want to be. It's corny, but it totally works on a story level, as well as, how the film actually plays out with those characters. It's a movie that gets to have its cake and eat it too. And on top of that, it's just fun. It's fun, over-the-top nonsense with a lot of action, a lot of crude comedy, the vast majority of which really landed for me. I just had a good time with it. It's so if you love the first two Deadpool movies, you're going to love this one. if you hate the first two Deadpool movies, you're going to hate this one. It's as simple as that. But I really enjoyed it. But tell me what you guys think. Have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Mention it in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.